everybody. Welcome back to day 2 of the playoffs here for the 2021 PCS Summer. I am Pyrotechnics. I am joined by Nightstar on this wonderful broadcast, and may I be the first of many to congratulate you on your 3-year Twitch anniversary there, Nightstar. But before we get into the specifics of all that good stuff and the games today, I want to take a moment to thank our wonderful sponsors, CTBC Bank, China Airlines, Chunghwa Telecom, and of course, Caliber. All right, Nightstar, getting ready to rock and roll today. We've got some wonderful games ahead of us, and I think I might know the answer to this, but which of the 2 matches are you most looking forward to?
It has to be the one, the only, the second series, because that is where Lieb's dreams will begin. Not die. That's where they will begin.
New chapter for Lieb. Yeah, I'm excited to see if they can make it through. It is the first time this team has been able to make the playoffs since the inception of the PCS. Of course, our other matchup today are going to be featuring Hong Kong Attitude taking on BJD Dragons after falling down yesterday. Hong Kong Attitude, well, honestly, I think they showcased some interesting stuff in the first game, but it seemed to fall apart for them. And they were on such a hot win streak last time around. I was kind of surprised. What were you thinking? I knew you were catching those games yesterday, Frank.
Yeah, I mean, they had momentum going into the first game, and then the second and third one felt like they were a little bit of a one-trick pony. The surprise play from the TF really fizzled out. I need to see Bivin just bounce back in a strong fashion in this series.
Yeah, well, he will get a chance to do it. Otherwise, Hong Kong Attitude will be going out in the losers bracket. You can see the playoffs as they currently stand. Machi and J-Team moving on to the second round. We'll see those played out not too far along, starting in about a day or two. And as for today's matches, we will be showing BJD Dragons taking on Hong Kong Attitude in that lower bracket. That is the one labeled L1. And then, of course, just after that, Lieb taking on Boom Esports. That is the side of the bracket where it is win or go home. You cannot afford to lose a game in that one. So we'll have to see these teams looking to fight for their lives. I think both these matchups will be really interesting. And I know there have been a couple predictions on your side, Frank. I don't know. You want to? Is there anything you'd like to change? Or you sticking to your guns?
Honestly, this L1 matchup got a lot more interesting in just how Hong Kong Attitude kind of fizzled out in their first series yesterday, right? And I don't think my predictions changed a lot in the fact I still think Hong Kong Attitude will be able to win out, but I don't think it's going to be in the 2-0 or dominating fashion that I might have imagined if they were to drop down to this one, although I did predict them to win the first series.
Yeah, I know things have to change a little bit. You know, brackets sometimes get a bit scuffed, and then you have to adapt on the fly. You have to make your changes. Yeah, Hong Kong Attitude, I think they definitely have a lot of tools, but if you look across their opponent, well, actually, you know what? Let's wait on that one, because let's talk more about this team. Now that we have that lineup for this squad, it really is all about Kongye. He's in the middle right here, and I think that's the appropriate place for him because it is all about getting the carry. He managed to find great success on that Viego in Game 1 against J-Team, but then it all fell apart, and some of the prioritization seemed a little strange. The Lee Sin, you know, I don't think it really worked out all that well for him. It was a little bit rough, and to correct myself, by the way, because it was not J-Team they were playing. Excuse me, it was Machi.
Yeah, and I mean, the Lee Sin pick, it is one of his traditional staple picks, but just the team dynamic this time around for him, it's not a pick that you can really 1v9 carry towards the mid-late game. Whereas before, when we did see it at Worlds, when he took it last year, he had a team that could really take advantage of it in PSG. You have the talent around them, but now taking a look at BJD Dragons, Ozzy, Arashi, Minji, K2, Enzo. You know, we start from K in the support role, then we go to K2 in the bot lane. And
it's going to be very confusing down there.
Yeah, eventually, as we keep going up the ladder, we're going to have like a K3 in the mid lane, K4 in the jungle. It's going to be K5 in the top lane.
Where does it end, Nightstar? Too many Ks. Oh my goodness. But for this team, you know, you talked about teams that can take advantage of, some of the more telegraphed style of Hong Kong Attitude. I'm curious to see if Berjaya Dragons can be that team, because when I look at it, it's a squad that's much less about a single player and a little bit more about the team effort. When I try to look at who would be your typical carry for this team, I'm kind of caught here because it could be Minji, it could be Ozzy. K2 stays safe. He does a lot of good work, but yeah, I feel like it's a little difficult. We'll compare their overall statistics, and it does look generally a lot more favorable on paper for the Hong Kong Attitude in most regards, except Hong Kong Attitude don't get a lot of gold leads, it turns out. Not in the early game.
I think it just comes down to the fact that they'll either get leads on Kongre or the entire team just falls apart drastically. Right?
Yeah.
Bivin, you watch Bivin and Lane, even in that game number 1, where they did pull out the win. He still managed to die to a pretty rudimentary Trundle support gank, just walking straight up into lane, and he still struggled. So I think there's a lot of lane struggles here, especially, of course, when you do have your jungler playing more scaling and playing for himself. You need stronger laners to be able to prop that up, and unfortunately Hong Kong Attitude have struggled in that regard.
But for the side of Berjaya Dragons, it's kind of a very polar opposite strategy coming out of the jungle. Arashi really looks to set up his team for success. He's really looking to create openings that the Dragons can use to get ahead. And we took a look at, I know we were talking just before the match about Enzo and his ridiculously high kill participation. Well, I think we probably could be expecting some roaming gang squads out of this team, and that could set Hong Kong Attitude behind. That seems like a way for the Berjaya Dragons to get out ahead early.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important for Berjaya to constantly pair up their jungle support duo. Of course, Enzo did play jungle for the squad earlier.
He understands
the
pathing.
Exactly. He understands that Arashi wants to be a little bit more aggressive in certain situations, and he's been pretty active in making those rotations to try and help facilitate that. We're into pick and ban here, and I think they'll adopt the Machi strat. You ban the Gwen, you ban the Viego, you go ahead and ban that Renekton as well. It should be the Gwen here, but obviously they might have something else on their mind. I just think Gwen is a very good follow-up carry for Kogya here. He has played it in the jungle, and it is one of those carries that can really hyperscale.
Oh, well, they actually opt for a Braum ban. I agree with you. I think it makes a lot of sense to remove a... Of course, it's also a champion that Rock has been able to play too. We'll see if that is going to be snapped up. But Hong Kong Attitude have heavily prioritized that Twisted Fate, even first picking it in the game yesterday. I want to see if that trend continues, because it is a bit of a worrying one if they put so much high prio on a champion like that. But there will be the Ziggs coming out that didn't get banned away against Eminem, so he will get his hands on it.
They haven't won a game on Ziggs yet, which is certainly problematic, and you can kind of tell that they were very hesitant on snapping up that pick in their series yesterday. And for Berjaya, it does mean that you have a lot of these early game junglers left available for Arashi, and he will snap one up. It will be that Zen. It's still pretty much big priority pick on this patch, even after getting dinked down a little bit here. And this Trundle pick, while has some flexibility, I would fully expect this pick to go into the hands of K, just because of the fact that it synergizes well with the Ziggs. It's also a pick that lends itself to a lot of early game if you put it in the jungle role and not a lot of scaling, which is not a Kongya identity there.
Yeah, it's certainly a little less likely. I'm thinking more the lines of the Lee Sin, which is being hovered right now. I was thinking maybe a Diana comes in. They are a little AP heavy, though. And that will be the Lee Sin locked in for Kongye on that rotation for the Berjaya Dragons. They prioritized really an early takeaway of the Leona, which I thought was interesting. Certainly a difficult combination with the Ziggs, so it makes sense why. But now they're going to go, if they opt into this Ashe, pretty heavily in utility. And I think this is setting up either Minji or Ozzy for a really big damage dealing play, and that is the Ashe locked in.
the Ashe is definitely one of those picks that helps facilitate for the team rather than really focus on hard carrying. And it also allows you to get your Leona roaming a lot sooner rather than later. And given the fact that they want to play around Arashi in the early game, it makes a lot of sense. And then when it comes to the mid game, hopefully they get some high damage threats when it comes to the mid and top lane that they're then able to have that carry through the team fight phase. And going into the second ban phase, you can tell Berjaya, they're not really thrown off by the Trundle or the Lee Sin here. While the Lee Sin certainly could go into the hands of Korea, still a flex option for them. We've seen Bivin take this into his hands. It didn't look pretty.
I don't know if I would be...
But he played it.
Yeah, he did play it, but I feel like if I'm Berjaya Dragons, I don't know if it's worth banning other junglers, because if Bivin does play Lee Sin, I feel like it may not matter what Kongye plays. But, you know, it's always a possibility. There's the Silas banned away by Hong Kong Attitude. They'll have one more, so the focus is on Minji. He has played a lot of LeBlanc, but that's already off the table. The Zoe ban, there was a lot of focus. Maybe Syndra, and there it is. And they're going to take the Twisted Fate away. Oh, I love this.
Yeah, so the Twisted Fate being snapped up here is actually really interesting because, I mean, clearly Hong Kong Attitude have that in mind when as well here. And to be fair, like if Hong Kong Attitude snapped themselves up this Gwen pick, I fully expect the Gwen to go into the hands of Korean. You just throw Bivin onto this Lee Sin, he can kind of just exist, I suppose. A TF isn't going to necessarily punish him, and you're going to be able to just focus on scaling. And we see another example of this in the Camille, who has been incredibly dominant just in our region.
Yeah, this Camille has had a lot of priority, in particular for Rocket. It's his most played champion. It's not even close. His next most, only 3 picks on a Renekton in the regular split, that is. Now, Hong Kong Attitude filling out this composition, giving themselves a lot of power picks. Berjaya, it kind of feels like they just have a straight-up pick composition at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely reliant on picks. You have a lot of CC packed into this composition. They're going to layer on the Kennen pick, which it's gotten a lot stronger. The buffs on this champion is definitely no slouch. He is a beast in the top lane, but that's really all he is. I still don't like him when it comes to team fights because it's very easy for him to get sectioned off. And if you look at Hong Kong Attitude's composition, it's very, very good at dealing with the Kennen when it comes to team fighting. You have the Satchel Charge to boot him out. You have the Lee Sin kick to kick him out. Then you also have the Trundle Pillar to make sure if he tries to get through or get access through a choke point, he's forced to expend the flash to get over these areas. So all in all, like, I see Kennen right now as more of a really a 1v1 split pusher, and eventually the Camille will also be able to outscale him in that regard.
It seems like for Berjaya Dragons, you know, we were looking at a little bit of their statistics, and you know, they are a team that they do okay when they manage to get ahead early. Hong Kong Attitude do phenomenally well when they get ahead early. Wait a minute, I'm thinking of a different team, but that's okay. They still have a Hong Kong Attitude still have a very, very like strong core of champions, and I feel like if Berjaya can throw them off early, that can make the difference. They don't want a team fight, and as you mentioned, they get outscaled. So this comp kind of seems to be like, all right, let's go all in and try and pick off as many people as possible. We'll keep Kongye down, keep Bivin down, maybe keep Rock down, and if we can do that, well, maybe they can pull out the win. If this game goes late, I'm a little bit worried for Berjaya Dragons. We'll see if they can make it stick, though, as we will load up onto the Rift for our first playoff match of the night. Hong Kong Attitude, Berjaya Dragons. Winner goes on, loser goes home.
Incredibly important first game here as both teams really try and establish the pace. And for Berjaya, this is a composition that is very, very tempo reliant. You want to attack the side lanes. You want to constantly look for picks once these cooldowns are up and available on the TF ultimate, on that Ashe ultimate. And for the side of Hong Kong Attitude, It's about being able to endure the early game and then just hit your scaling points with the Camille, with the Gwen, and with the Ziggs. Bivin on the Lee Sin, his main job, kick the rat.
Yeah, pretty much. If they can keep the Kennen away from the team, he's got a lot of tools to work with, and so does Kay. That will certainly help. But Ozzy has been the only player in the league to actually make this champion work. He did it up against J-Team. I want to say some weeks back, but we'll see if it's going to be enough this time around. Teleports across the board, and we shall see. Early push here out by K2 and Enzo.
Yeah, setting up for a level 1 play, which is exactly what you want to see. As Ziggs has okay single target trade damage at level 1, but that's a very short. It's not going to persist through the entire trade, and in that regard, you're going to win out through the power of Ashe as an auto-attacking champion. And does look like we are going to have red buff starts coming in from both of these junglers. Arashi clearly wanting to finish towards that bot side, being able to just try and play around this Leona as much as possible.
I do want to point out, as we get underway, that Rock has gone for the prototype Omni Stone. Not something I see a whole lot. So he's going to get to cycle through all those different keystones. And it's an interesting choice.
You know, when we say interesting for Omni Stone, 100% of the time we just mean it's bad. Because
Shh, don't peek behind the curtain. It is a strange choice. I was like kind of looking at it sideways for a second.
Yeah, it really is just bad for the most part, because you get a lot of these options where, oh, you know, I can use this in certain situations. I can use this in certain situations, but you could just pick that keystone and just use it the entire game.
Yeah.
However,
it's a keystone for people who can't decide. You want everything.
Yeah. It's for the indecisive. It's also
for the
fun
memes
to watch. Just not necessarily strategically sound.
All right, Arashi is heading down for a dive in the bot
Here
side.
we go.
This is the play. Berjai, they want to make those side lanes full committing with the teleport. In fact, they pick up first blood. Arashi, they do a good job of juggling the aggro, but here's the counter engage from Hong Kong Attitude. Arashi is left on his lonesome, and that ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. That ought to favor, oh my goodness, as that's a huge stun coming out of Rock. Bivin tries to chase more, and Enzo does not land the Zenith blade. I don't think he would have wanted to. So that started well, but ended, for Berjaya Dragons.
It's actually not that bad, because of the fact you look at the Summoner's Burnt. Rock, teleport expended. Bivin, flash and teleport expended. Eminem, teleport expended. K, flash and exhaust expended. Where are their Summoners left? They only have 2 summons left, so we get to see the replay of this dive. It was just really cleanly executed, and unfortunately, Minji doesn't land the wild cards to finish off that second kill, which would have been a massive win here. But because of the extra effort expended by Hong Kong Attitude to try and chase down these kills, it's really just a huge summoner win. Especially for the top side here. Ozzy, he is up 11 CS. He has now the cull stacking up, and while Rock has a cull for himself, it's going to work a lot better for Ozzy up top side with the extra EXP lead he has in addition to that farm.
That's the edge right there, and for Berjaya Dragons, I wouldn't be too surprised if we're going to see more of those plays. There is that one teleport advantage, although I think Ozzy might wait until he dings 6. You do want to get that slicing maelstrom on.
Mm-hmm. And the dive potential is definitely also there top side, because you are going to have about a half level advantage. So that means you're going to have a lot of time, about 30 seconds or even a minute, depending on the EXP gap, to really find the timing window to make that dive top happen. As Kongan, he's gonna take a peek into that bottom side river. We'll be able to clear out that ward, and he has gone for the ghost, which lends itself to better scaling towards the mid and late game, just because you can play these team fights a lot better. You can also play 1v1s pretty well as well. However, as a jungler, you don't necessarily get stuck in the side lanes, but Vivin,
there's the kick.
For a good play here.
He actually does a good job dodging out, but I think he might not get away from this one. Yep. Kongye and Vivin doubling up. I was just about to say, the Gwen, we hadn't really seen as much in the way of ganking pressure, but that changes in the blink of an eye with Vivin landing that kick on and Minji taken out.
Yeah, and very good execution coming in from Vivin there. Just going for the level 6 play. Pretty standard or pretty simple. And Minji, of course, not level 6 himself, doesn't have the tools to make a play right after respawn. So now Bivin does have a level lead. That's going to be really nice here, as it could be a deterrent for a top-sided play if Bivin ever decides to hide himself in the side.
Yeah, honestly, I got to apologize to Bivin. I thought the Lee Sin, it didn't look really good in the mid lane. After last night, I'm thinking, is this guy a TF1 trick? No, okay. Prove me wrong. All right. So far, so good. Had a little help from Kongye, but he was already winning that lane, I think, critically. Has had a good time, and I feel like Minji and Brajaya Dragons maybe fell into a bit of a trap with the TF pick away, because that almost certainly is what it was.
Yeah, and, I was actually kind of hoping to see the Ziggs go into the mid lane, because Ziggs is actually a massive counter pick against the TF, because the moment TF ever leaves lane, you pretty much take his tower instantaneously. But now it does look like they're going to hunt for these kills bot lane. Yeah,
K2 and Enzo trying to get back to the safety of the tower. They manage it, even though the pillar comes in. And, the one downside of trying to play a Gwen in the jungle is you don't really have a lot of ways to stop your opponents yourself. You need your lanes to layer on the CC before you can get in there. Sure, you deal a heck of a lot of damage, but you're dependent on that matchup. Arashi comes into the mid lane, just says hello to Bivin, tanks up a Sonic Wave, and actually gets followed through. Bivin's fancying his chances here. This is a 1v2 until Kongye arrives, and he does, but that's going to be the end of that. Arashi had a little bit of a quieter game so far.
Yeah, quiet start coming in from Arashi, and as he tries to take this, he might just die to Bivin. Although, we do have Enzo already on the rope.
Ozzy is able to lightning rush away. That was nice. I mean, it's a very slippery team, too. One of the flip sides of a pick composition is that usually you have a lot of ways to get out of harm's way. Minus the bot lane, but they have had respectful positioning. And that is something that K2 in particular does well. As the teleport completes and Ozzy comes back up to the top side. K2 kind of just stays safe. He farms up. He puts out a lot of consistent damage, He's usually kind of a Varus main, but he can do the same sort of thing on an Ashe. Gotta give him respect.
Yeah, and the Ashe pick, he's not necessarily going to churn out as much damage as we might see before, but
gonna be a bit of a fight.
Looks like a fight.
That's the Mega Inferno Bomb coming down. It actually separates the team, and Arashi is gonna get taken out. Meanwhile, the follow in round 2 for Hong Kong Attitude. And now it's full retreat for the Dragons, trying to get away. They only lose the one. Unfortunately, they can't pick up the Rift Herald.
Yeah, Arashi actually dies while he's trying to make his way over to the eye, and because of the reduced timer on the eye as well, they aren't going to find an opening to claim that for themselves. And that's actually a big loss here for the side of Brajaya. They invest a lot of time to try and get it. And even though they are able to obtain it, 100 gold, well, they did lose a member for the cause. So it's overall about a 300 gold loss.
Kongye is already starting to hurt with those needleworks. This is when you're a team playing against Hong Kong Attitude, you start to worry a little bit. Uh-oh, look at the kill score. Look at the champion Kongye has. Look at the game clock. Everything starts to be a little terrifying, I think.
And it all kind of boils back down to the play coming around Bivin, getting that kick onto Minji, sending or getting that kill on him in mid lane. It means that TF set behind, now level 8, still hasn't really found an opening opportunity to use that ultimate. And right now it's on cooldown, but it's going to be yet another minute and a half before we see that back up again. And Dragon is up and available. They would like to try and make a play for this, and again, they do need to be the team that snowballs, but it's starting to get more and more difficult to do so.
Yeah, and they're the ones who aren't finding the edge right now. You know, you can see Bivin with the lead he's already established with a little bit of help from Kongye. Does manage to pick the Gore Drinker already. Not going to be matched on the opposite side. Minji's just had a very quiet game, unfortunately. Bottom side, it's a little bit of a better situation. K2 is out farming M&M, but that doesn't really matter that much because they can't put any pressure on this map. You saw that they were able to secure vision of the Scuttle Crab here, but they can't go for the Dragon. They didn't have the positioning to be able to pull it off, and I think Hong Kong Attitude could take it, but they are going to play it safe for right now.
Yeah, they can be really, really patient with this Dragon take here, because again, as the game continues to go on, their comp does get better and better, but now with that extra priority coming in from mid lane, they're just going to rotate back over. And again, like, TF is a great pick to make plays for your team, but you're never ever going to be put into a situation where you can ever take that 1v1 in the mid lane, and as a result, you end up conceding a lot of priority through waves. And it's more about cheating priority with that ultimate that makes the pick so strong. However, they are now eventually going to set up for that dive. They have TF ultimate. They are trying to make it over.
And they are. Immediately the turn comes in.
It's only a red card.
X-Tech ultimatum on, and I think they're still going to be able to take him out. Kongye actually can't quite find the needlework, but
can clean up,
with the combo, Bivin is able to help clean up, and it's a trade 1-for-1. Hong Kong Attitude looking for more here as they charge down the line, and Arashi just gets a little bit of a snip on his tunic. Oh, the Sonic Wave lands Bivin. I don't think he's going to go for it. No Lee Syndrome today, but every time Berjaya make a play, Hong Kong Attitude have found an answer.
And it was just too telegraphed, right? You know that they're trying to set up this wave. You know that TF Ultimate is now up and available. So they're just going to try and go. And Korea, Vivid, they make the roam play to match. And they are able to kill Minji off the back end of it. So 1-for-1, yes, that's a play Berjaya needed to pull off there. But a brilliant response coming in from Hong Kong Attitude. And at the very least, they are able to trade out. It's just trading power. For the side of Berjaya, the only person that feels like they are going to scale or has a chance to scale is going to be this Kennen pick. And on the flip side, you're trying to invest more and more money into Kongria. Both teams are somewhat successful in that regard. The issue is the Kennen is still going to struggle when it comes to team fights, and on the flip side, the Gwen shouldn't have an issue with team fights at all.
And this is what Hong Kong Attitude are always trying to do. It is the most telegraphed composition for a team. They always go for the faith in Kongye, stonks in Kongye every single game. And it's starting to work out, Nightstar. 3 kills on a Gwen. The scaling is happening. It's only 14 minutes in, but I don't know. If I'm Berjaya Dragons, I'm a little worried right now.
Yeah, and this is why you just go ahead and ban the Gwen. That's why Machi banned Gwen, Renekton, and Viego in games 2 and 3, because you just cannot give those champions over to Hong Kong Attitude. Viego, Gwen, just too good at scaling to put into the hands of Kongren. While this man has sort of changed his identity since coming back onto Hong Kong Attitude, you know, he's just too mechanically gifted that you can't give him these openings. Now Arashi, he's going to run into some issues.
Yep, talk about an opening, man. That was a pretty value pink ward. Going to get cut down, and now the play is sort of, unfortunately, a little bit scuffed. They were setting up for it. They were patient, but they did not count on the random Arashi ward, but that is going to be the end of it. All the same, Berjaya were the ones that had the timing window, and it seems like it's slipping away from them a little bit. Teleport actually coming in. They are going to try to make a play off the back of this, and Kongye actually going to go all the way into the pit right now. Solar Flare on, and he's on his own, so he will get deleted in the Rift Herald pit while Arashi holds the line. That sword is not going to land, unfortunately, but that's a 2-kill pickup for Minji, and Hong Kong Attitude were not expecting that.
And this time they did lose track of that TF ult timer. And right there, Minji was able to capitalize. And great play coming out from Berjaya to pick off Kongre to get that shutdown gold onto the TF. And while TF doesn't necessarily scale super well at 1, 2, sometimes even 3 items, he is a very disgusting full build champion. So Minji, if it goes to the really late game, could be a big threat here. And especially in this 1v1, because he has the unsealed spellbook, there will be times when he is going to be able to find kill pressure as long as he's able to get those items.
Yeah, so Minji gets some much needed cash infusion there, and you know, we're already starting to see that Berjaya have been able to pick up steam a little bit in the way of the items. Managing to get the Everfrost now. That Rocket Belt is completed for Ozzy, so we start to see the game plan taking shape for Berjaya. It is going to be about setting up these picks, trying to find the likes of Kongye, make sure that he can't scale as fast. You can shut down Rock on the side lanes as well. It's going to be a little harder to take down Bivin and Eminem. They're a little bit too slippery, but there's opportunities for this team, and they're certainly not out of this one, as they do have the gold lead, looking to try and contest this dragon when it'll come up. But K actually holding the line in that river brush. So we could have ourselves another good old skirmish soon.
1.5k gold lead. Enzo possibly caught out here.
Yeah, he's a little tanky. He's going to be able to walk away. But look at that. Bivin going all the way in, and he goes golden as the Mega Inferno Bomb lands. No kickback possible. Buys enough time for the rest of the team to arrive. But can they actually get the plays as Arashi gets kicked in? Needlework is huge for Kongye, and they will be able to clean up. Minji gets Bivin, and Kongye is able to cut the rest of the team down to size. Ozzy too late to the party. He and Minji will have to walk away, but if they can, it's going to be Rock with the cutoff here. Hextech Ultimatum lands on top of the mid laner, and big old shutdown there. Ozzy zooms away to freedom, but it is a Hong Kong Attitude victory in that fight.
A very narrow victory, but still a victory nonetheless here, as now the gold does immediately close in that gap. They're going to turn on to the dragon, and yeah, Ozzy, he could still contest this. He's doing so much damage, remember.
Yeah, Eminem. Oh, he's dead. He's absolutely dead. Dragon's going to go over, but Ozzy is able to pick off in a solo. Now he's just got to dodge out the Sonic Wave from Bivin. He does. What a play, man.
Yeah, we're going to see the replay here. Enzo, he gets caught out. Does just exactly what Trundle does. He punishes anytime you're uncoordinated and trying to search for vision, and that's how the fight starts off. And decent stopwatch to stall things out as long as possible, but Hong Kong Attitude, they're just the first ones to the play. That's why they're able to get those kills early on. And Rock, he put himself in a poor spot, which makes this a little bit more interesting, as Ozzy, you can already see he's doing a lot of damage. It's just the rest of the team doesn't exactly have enough follow-up for it.
Speaking of follow-up, we got ourselves a whole other fight here as they got a little pincered on the Berjaya Dragon side.
Gotta keep
Tower's going to fall, but here's the second wind effort. K2 is really starting to pump out the extra arrows, and K will fall off the back of that one. It's trades, but Kongye once again getting the kills. Meanwhile, Bivin on the side shuts down Ozzy, and it's just chaos all over the Rift. Nightstar, the fights just do not stop. Kongye with a big old skip and slash into the needlework. K looking to take down Rock, but he flashes the wall. The turn back and the triple kill for the Hong Kong Attitude jungler.
It's just absolute disaster. It's absolute disaster for Berjaya. It starts out well, they get the initial pick, and this is kind of just how the composition's supposed to go, right? You have to constantly pull the trigger button here, and they were able to do so. It was just afterwards you see the drawbacks of the composition. While they have a lot of CC, a lot of pick potential, they don't have a lot of damage at this point in the game, and it took a lot of labored effort to even try and get Rock this low, and even then they weren't able to finish the job, as Conrad, this man is just too far ahead. He's 8-1-2. He almost has that completed mythic now. I'm actually surprised he hasn't completed it, but he hasn't completed now. And he has so much farm in his back pocket as a jungler, and now he's on 2.5 items. He even has a stopwatch for the next team fight. I just don't know how you stop this guy.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a problem here for the Berjaya Dragons. It all started with them trying to push down mid lane with a Rift Herald. They did end up getting 2 towers, but a really good counter engage from Hong Kong Attitude, or rather an engage to stop the push while a side lane 1v1 was happening between Bivin and Ozzy. And, you know, it's just Hong Kong Attitude with the strength. And they have their win condition online. It is an 8-1 Gwen, and Kongye is just chasing down people. And so that flash is not going to save you, my friend. And the Mega Inferno Bomb, well, that was just cheeky.
They're still going to try and play.
Teleport. Yeah, Exhaust is on. Berjaya looking for it here as Kongye going a little bit low in this one, but everyone's getting into the mix. They do get the shutdown. So the counter collapse is there. The pick happens. K a little low, and he's going to be running for freedom, but Ozzy should be able to cut him off in this one. And even with the flash, he goes forward on the rocket belt. That's going to be enough for Berjaya Dragons to pick up another.
Oh, and Berjaya, they don't stop trying to hunt for these plays, and credit goes to them. Even though they are down
even right now.
Even though they are down in the kill score, they still keep searching for him. And again, this is why you don't just walk out. Usually a lot of supports, when they are playing these melee champions, they will just be like, hey, because I'm a melee tank support, I can just walk out and get vision, but you can't really do that. However, they end up overextending quite a bit to make that play happen. So they end up being way too far in and just get collapsed upon. Although we did see the showcase of this is also why Trundle is good against Kennen. He tried to go through a choke point and just face plant straight into a pillar.
Yeah, although Ozzy did manage to get the last laugh by taking him out on the escape route. And, you know, this game is starting to remind me of Week 4. That was a 25-24 kill score game. And, you know, for Berjaya Dragons, they did win that one. This is a team that they're a little chaotic, I think is maybe a bit of an understatement, but they do manage to thrive in some of these uncertain situations. And there is still this massive Gwen to contend with, but as we've seen, when they can actually set up the globals, layer them properly for the pick potential, they can win the fights in the follow-up. So this game is very much on a knife's edge, it feels like.
And the key part is just how chaotic these fights are. Arashi's pinned against. He is stuck, but you know what? Thankfully, they don't have vision of him. But that's a key point, is the fact of how chaotic these fights have been. It's very possible that Hong Kong Attitude just lose track of where the Kennen is. They burn too many of those key cooldowns that would stop a Kennen from getting into a team fight, and all of a sudden they are able to get access into the backline with this Kennen pick and really just blow everyone up here. However, as it stands, it really is still a pretty dream scenario for this Kennen to actually succeed in that regard. And more importantly, Hong Kong Attitude on Soul Point here, it will be Mountain Soul, and if they are able to obtain Mountain Soul, it gets that much harder for this Kennen to be able to kill people in the backline, even if he's able to get access. And then, of course, it's just the fact that Kongya just becomes even more of a unit to try and take down.
Yeah, he's definitely a huge problem in a straight-up 5v5. It's Berjaya kind of on them to really try and set up the picks, but there is a teleport coming in, Enzo actually going to get locked up, and I think he is an absolute dead man here. Really nowhere to go for this Leona, so this might honestly prompt a Baron start, but no, Hong Kong Attitude are just going to go for the push down mid. They're a little bit more patient, while Ozzy on the side lanes is going to be able to finally finish off Tier 1 top.
And I think their reasoning behind that is just that they don't want to put themselves in a situation where they are getting shredded by Baron, losing MR, and then the Kennen somehow manages to find that magical flank angle and just absolutely one-shot all of them. They can afford to take this slow. They're really just playing for, in 3 minutes from now, they get that Mountain Soul, and then they're able to really start turning on the afterburners.
Not to mention they can just keep this easy siege going. It's easy to forget sometimes with all the flashy Kongye plays that Eminem on this Ziggs has been able to just demolish tower after tower. And the next minion wave should be able to finish the job here. as they keep the vision clear. Do want to keep an eye on the Hong Kong Attitude ward game. It's just very solid at keeping them in the dark, with the exception of that one pink in the brush at blue. As that is going to be the engage with the arrow. Enzo finds the solar flare, but they don't have any follow-up to it, and it seems like a little bit of a miscommunication there on the Berjaya Dragon side. We'll see if they can turn this fight around. Barak has already taken out Enzo on the opposite side. Kongye has taken down Arashi, a quick 2 for none. And that is going to be the big siege. Oh dear, I don't know if that pack was going to finish in time. Just barely is able to.
And time again, they're just able to punish this Leona pick with the Trundle. Every time he goes in, immediately Pillar goes up behind him. So not only does it prevent him from getting out of the situation, it also prevents the rest of the team from being able to follow up. They don't have a whole lot of ability to get over terrain. You have an Ashe who is going to be flash reliant, and if she burns flash, she's incredibly exposed. And that goes the same for this TF. So the only ones who can really join them is just the Zen. Even Ozzy can't travel over walls without the flash because the Rocket Belt doesn't get enough distance. As we get to see the replay, the arrow comes in, Enzo goes in, but look, Pillar goes up right here, and where's the follow-up? They can't get to him, and Vivid also buys so much time keeping Ozzy and keeping K2 occupied on the other side here, and there's just no damage with the other 3 members.
Yeah, Eminem even staying alive there. It's a huge blow for the Berjaya Dragons, really just trying to find something, anything. Minji will be able to clear away the wave on the top, and Rocket's going to be stopped on the push just yet, but Hong Kong Attitude clearly controlling the tempo of this one, and they're happy to just let it be a slow roll. In 50 seconds, they're on Soul Point. That's all they've got to do. Take that one down. It becomes really difficult to deal with them. Baron is, of course, always an opportunity, but this is a team that is playing conservatively, and it's paying off.
And you can also see just how hard it's going to be for the side of Berjaya. You look at Kongre, his items, he's got 4 completed items at 28 minutes into the game. Has the completed Banshees, has the completed Zanyas.
He's not going to die.
And, yeah,
he's just not going to die.
Yeah, and this is actually such a smart build as well, because you look, you have Mountain Soul on the table. Eminem does dodge out on the arrow, and you get extra resistances from these items.
All right, Rock stays up topside right now to push the wave. Does manage to get the outer turret, but he has teleport available if need to come into the fight, and Berjaya trying to flex a little bit, but Enzo already down to half health, and they turn onto Arashi, immediately popping him down. Big Inferno doesn't land, and it is not even needed as Kongye opens up on the Dragons, and they are in full retreat. The flash Bivin follow-up into the jump from Rock, and Ozzy buys a handful of seconds with that flash, but the pillar means he will go down slowly but surely, and the follow the turn, Rock jumping in, Hextech ultimatum, now as K2 will be able to take him out. But the chase is on from Kongye, and this would be for the ace, and I don't think he can get away this time around. Flash burned, and that is about all he had left. 29 minutes, Hong Kong Attitude get the ace for 1.
I will say that they ended up over chasing just a little bit here, Pyra, because now look, they're actually going towards the Baron buff. However, the real objective should just be this Mountain Soul. So even if they are able to get this Baron very cleanly, which, I mean, they're not going to get challenged, it's just a matter of, for Berjaya, all you want to do is try and deny this Dragon Soul and buy yourself a little bit more time. However, they are still rotating for this Dragon. They haven't gotten their recalls. This is probably Berjaya's best opportunity for a fight.
Yeah, Berjaya gonna look to turn this one, but look at how much damage they already shred them down. Arashi and Enzo on the front line, already melting, and Hong Kong Attitude, they just don't have to respect this positioning anymore. Vivid comes in, manages to clean up the double kill, and they just keep charging between the bouncing bombs, the satchel charges, and the needles out of everywhere. Kongye now leading the charge onto Ozzy, and it just looks like Berjaya have nothing left.
Yeah, they don't have a whole lot left in the tank in this game.
Last
and
gasp
Ozzy,
there.
you know, again, he's doing damage. It's just the damage doesn't mean a whole lot at this point in the game. They don't have the follow-up to help execute it. And now Kongre, he will eventually get this Dragon Soul. It was probably
he's gonna do it solo.
2.5 minutes a little bit too late, but you know, you get it. You got there eventually.
They managed it. I mean, they were being a little bit greedy, but it worked out in the end. Let's take a look at that fight again. Berjaya, this is their chance, but unfortunately, they're trying to position into a Ziggs, and they just, before anyone even gets there, they're almost already deleted. And then, Eminem, he does all the work. Bibin snaps up the kills, and then the pillar comes down. Minji has nowhere to go. Ozzy's just like, where did my team go? It's pretty much it.
Yeah, and this is the difference between the Ziggs Trundle lane and the Ziggs Leona lane, is that Ziggs Leona, you have so much one target burst because of the Leona passive combined with how much damage is onto the Ziggs. But when you have Ziggs Trundle, you have so much terrain control. There's just no access to these ramp points or these choke points that it becomes almost impossible to ever consider contesting dragons or consider contesting barons, because you have to somewhat travel through one of those points in order to get access to those objectives, and there's just not enough of that mobility on the side of Berjaya to do so.
Yeah, and that's just unfortunate. They haven't really been able to find it in, and I think this one, pending a miracle of a fight, is going to go the way of Hong Kong Attitude, looking to come back after yesterday, falling into the losers bracket. For Berjaya, this opening, I think the lesson learned here is, ban away the Gwen. Don't give Kongye a carry champion. It's that simple sometimes. It's going to be the arrow tanked up, but Rock is just fine, and here comes the turn, the counter, and all the Ziggs damage, as well as the Gwen. They just cut him down to size once again. Deep in there, Kongye even tanking the Nexus turrets as he goes into stasis. That is going to be it. Yes, triple kill picked up by Eminem for the swagger. And at 32.5 minutes, Hong Kong Attitude will take game 1 of the series.
Might have taken a little bit of time to get there, but this game was never in doubt. Once Kongye got those 3 kills in that early portion of the game, once it looked like Hong Kong Attitude were poised to just get themselves that mountain soul, it was just done. They ended up getting a lot of extra fluff on top of it with just getting a bunch more kills between Baron, Dragon, and the Nexus. But it was just really all about Kongye steamrolling the Rift.
Yeah, and it's the game plan every time for Hong Kong Attitude. If they can get a carry champion, they will make that happen. And for Berjaya Dragons, I do think they had some good plays, finally really opening up with the Destiny Gate, but a lot of the early ones were really read well by HKA. It prevented bigger leads from being gained. And then when they did actually manage to get a couple of picks and take down the gold bounty on Kongye, it wasn't really enough because they could never really follow up with much. A little bit of misfires when it came to trying for objectives. They thought they were stronger than they were, perhaps. And I think that is one of the struggles Berjaya has had this split and now into the postseason, is they're not always very well aware of where they power spike compared to their opponents, I feel.
And that was a bigger issue with this composition, right? Where you have plenty of lockdown, mind you. There was just no damage to follow up on that lockdown. And even in that early game, the Xin Zhao never got off the ground. He was able to attack the lanes and really snowball any of these lanes here. And it could also just be from the fact that this is their first playoff game. And some of these players, like Arashi, just don't have that extra playoff experience, that veteranship that you would need to really come in and attack aggressively in game number 1 of a lower bracket matchup.
Yeah, it's a good point, right? We do have like a lot of teams that make it into the playoffs, and they don't always have a lot of the experience going forward, trying to pick that up as they go. And it is a very big playoff bracket. 8 out of 10 teams in the league make it all the way through, and these were our number 6 and number 7 seeds actually. And for Hong Kong Attitude, definitely showing up where it counted in this game. We'll see if they can take it in 2, or if Berjaya Dragons are going to find an answer the next time around. And that's the story of it, right? It definitely was a lot of twists and turns in the gold, but all the same, a lot of that gold, it just kept falling into Kongye's hands. And by the time it started to get out of control, it was definitely way too late. Objective control, really solid on the Dragons. Berjaya, they were more focused on Rift Heralds, but Hong Kong Attitude always had a great read on the positioning. They were always able to counter-engage, with few exceptions, and limit what Berjaya could pick up on their plays.
Yeah, and the simplicity from Hong Kong Attitude and what they needed to do was just really, really easy to execute. Whereas on the flip side, for Berjaya, this was a very high difficulty composition to execute around because of how many moving parts you needed. You needed to get this TF moving early on. You needed this Xin to get early action going in these lanes. And then you needed this Kennen to win lane and somehow be able to get access onto the Ziggs. And you can see with the Ziggs damage numbers, he was never contested in these fights. And Bivin does get MVP here. And you know what? Like, for all the criticism we threw at his previous Lee Sin game, this was a very good performance because of what he was able to do into the Twisted Fate, and then also in the side lane being able to get that solo kill onto Ozzy.
Yeah, I think this could be a little controversial given the star of the show was Konge, but I think it's certainly merited. Really made full use of this Lee Sin. We saw the mechanics on point, side lane control excellent, setting up plays for the team, and really just on the same page as K with the Trundle Pillar. And honestly, as Rock with the Hextech Ultimatum, you know, there was just a lot to like, and it does speak volumes about how this team has really put their trust in Bivin. You know, there was a lot of uncertainty on this roster. They started the split with Hong Suol. They even put Wen in for a game, and then they just come in and re-sign their spring split mid laner, and there's just like question mark pings flying everywhere. He has some rough games, but it starts to come together at the end. And I think this game is definitely... it showcases why they had so much trust there, because he really did what they needed him to on a pick that wasn't Twisted Fate, which was nice to see.
Berjaya thought they were big brain and snatching up the Twisted Fate pick, but turns out Bivin, perhaps it's because he's a TF1 trick, he knows how to play against it.
That's true. You can play both sides of the matchup, right? So he was able to turn it around. We'll see if that happens this next time, but we are going to go ahead and take a quick cooldown. When we return, game number 2 of the series, so don't go anywhere.